Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday for me. I'm Dr. Jenica Paz, and I'm returning this month to finish up our final chat regarding How To series. And this month, you all provided some questions related to how to talk about mental health with children. And in particular, you guys submitted some questions that involved a couple of themes. So for this month, some of the themes that you asked related to childhood mental health or how to talk to children about mental health related to fostering emotional intelligence in young kiddos. In the school psych world, that relates heavily to what we call social emotional learning. So I'll chat a little bit about how you can, some simple ways that you can foster that within young children. Several of you were also concerned with childhood anxiety, specifically within the toddler ages. And so I'll give a couple of tips about how you can help support your children who are starting to experience and manifest symptoms of anxiety. This is really on the rise and very common question that parents are seeking support with, especially during the pandemics that we're experiencing. And lastly, there were some questions related to reducing guilt, reducing parent guilt, whether that be experiences of their own mental health struggles or reducing guilt when they know it's so important to carve in some me time. So without further ado, if you don't already have some kind of yummy warm beverage, actually mine's a little bit cold because it's been sitting out for quite a while. Hopefully yours is warmer than mine, and we'll go ahead and get started with our discussion today. So with respect for creating emotional intelligence at different ages, I feel like this is something, one, I'm really glad that you're attuned to this being a really important area of development. I myself am currently looking up child enrichment centers and have found myself really gravitating towards Amelia Reggio types of programs because within that toddler age specifically, the focus really is on social emotional development. So I really love that you're asking about these kinds of questions. There's some really simple strategies that you can do to begin to boost this at young ages. But it really begins with just plain emotional literacy. So finding ways to really help build your child's emotion vocabulary. And a lot of that is going to come from, once again, you, parent. So that comes from you modeling and labeling emotions and really helping build that into their everyday routine. So there's a couple simple ways you can do this. Certainly, if you're watching TV programs, you can kind of label what you see. Same with books, you can help point out feelings in labels. You can model it within yourself. So if you start to notice that you are having a big reaction or having a big feeling, even if it's happy, you can say, oh, mommy feels so happy right now. And you can kind of exaggerate what that matching facial expression would look like. Mommy feels happy because she just got her favorite, her favorite movie is back in the movie theater and she's so happy because they're re-releasing it and they're ready, she wants to go watch it. Or mommy's so happy because, for my son Sebastian, you just dunked that ball and that's a skill that you've been working on. That made mommy feel really happy. So labeling those emotions within yourselves, noticing and pointing it out when you see them observed in your children, those are all just super easy ways to begin to build your child's emotion vocabulary. And those are really important for supporting emotional intelligence as they get older. Something else that I always have on hand is, this is simple, but this is just, it's a magnet. This is a little feelings chart magnet. And there's a cute little kind of window covering that goes over. So I actually will go to the fridge and I'll kind of look and say, how's mommy feeling today? You know what? Mommy is feeling, I'll just model this on the fly for you today. Mommy's feeling, let's say exhausted. So I can show you guys this one up here, exhausted. Mommy's feeling exhausted. And why am I feeling exhausted? Well, you know what? It's because I have a lot of activities that a lot of chores I have to do today, and I didn't get a lot of sleep because you were up throwing up all night. Unfortunately, because my son just had a stomach bug. So exhausted would be how I would be feeling. Other simple ways you could do this too, you can have a feelings thermometer, could be one that you also have on the refrigerator or maybe in a notebook, but kind of having them label and anchor feelings across a thermometer. It could be as simple as maybe, if it's anxious, because that's another question you were asking about. if they're feeling anxious, you could have an anxiety thermometer. And again, it could have cute little pictures related to characters of interest. You could easily go on Google or Pinterest and find some, but kind of having them label either positive emotions, harder emotions. So if it's anxiety, they could have 0 to maybe like a 5 if they're kind of young, and have them kind of gauge how they're feeling on those. So making it a point to build in that emotional literacy and also helping gauge how big of a feeling they have. Those are some really simple ways that you can start to foster emotional intelligence or emotional literacy at young ages. There are lots of wonderful books out there. If you're really focused on a specific emotion like anger or feeling brave, there's a lot of easy, you can Amazon. And I can also share some book lists that can go in your parent newsletter that can kind of help guide you to some great social emotional learning books. But there's also some that come from more of a little broader range. So I like the Bucket Fillers book for sure. Have you filled a bucket today? Because not only does this help build emotion vocabulary, but it also has to do with engaging in pro-social behaviors and building empathy and spreading kindness. So these are all important characteristics of building emotional literacy and emotional intelligence. Also, it gives you some fun language that you can carry on outside of your home environment. So if you see somebody who is engaging in a helpful or unhelpful act, you can kind of prompt your child and say, was that person acting as a bucket filler, or were they taking away for someone's bucket? So it can kind of give you some shared terminology in which you could use to really extend to various components of their life, whether it be at school, in social play, at home, with family and friends, gives you some common language that you can use. So that's the Bucket Fillers. I really love that one. Another great book is the I Am Human book by Susan Verde, and this is also a book of empathy. I love this as a source of also supporting students building multicultural awareness, supporting cultural components that I think are really, really helpful in terms of promoting social justice as well within young kiddos. But I love it in terms of supporting emotional intelligence at young kids as well, because it does focus a lot on building empathy. So this is another great bibliotherapy kind of a resource that you can use. Some other unique and fun tools. I'm all full of the books and the gadgets today. Any kind of household books that you already might have, you can use these, but I really love to model with them. But I love these little wooden kind of Montessori figurines here. I'm not sure if you can see that too well, but there's these little wooden characters and they have facial expressions on them, as well as they are labeled with an emotion. So here's one. They're also color coded. So purple is calm. And so when teaching emotional intelligence and emotional literacy, it's very common, some of the strategies that if you start to get into the literature and read up on it, they'll have you partner a feeling label as well with a color. And so sometimes it could be easy to just have a color to match with a feeling and emotion. So that kind of can go a really long way. Calm is red. Another way that I help bring this to life is I have books that deal, simple books. So my toddler is going to be, he'll be 2 next month actually, but we've been reading books like this ever since he was super, super young. This one's very basic. This is the La Catrina, and this is an emotions focused book. And so it's beautiful, beautiful Dia de los Muertos in style art, but each one has just very simple, it just has it just labels a feeling. And this one's in English and Spanish. And so this one is confident, confiado. And then I have with my little wooden dolls, actually I'll find one that matches. Let's find here, let's see, sad. Okay, sad is triste. Sad is very commonly associated with the color of blue as well. So this is common. And then I would also share with my little wooden, here is the blue feeling. I would hand this to my son, Sebastian, and sad, and you see, and so I kind of make the parallels. This one has a little teardrop. This face here is also depicting tears coming from, and then I would model it sad. And then I might think, why is she feeling sad? And I might then provide some ideas of common things that would lead to somebody feeling sad. And then they have a kind of physical representation that they can also use during their own play, or if they're feeling a certain way, and you kind of help ingrain and internalize what the different colors and facial expressions mean. If they're getting to a place where they're getting very frustrated or anxious and maybe having a hard time communicating their feelings, you can have these in a place where they could actually go grab them for you and help let you know which way that they're feeling. So I really love these tools, simple ones that I just kind of have around my home. I also wanted to share just a little bit of a helpful acronym for you that's commonly used within the literature related to emotional intelligence. There's an article that I will share with all of you in the a link to it for the newsletter, but it's an article that was published by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And the name of this article is actually Teaching Emotional Intelligence in Early Childhood. So it's chock full with a lot of great ideas. One that I wanted to point out to you comes from Mayer and Salavi's 1997 theory of emotional intelligence. And this is where the RULER acronym came into play. So recognizing the RULER acronym is a way that organizes the 5 different skills that are able to be taught that can support emotional intelligence and foster emotional intelligence. So there's 5 skills that are within the RULER acronym, and these include the first for R stands for recognize, and this is R, recognize, how am I feeling? This is where you're helping the child, and you might help label this for them. How are they feeling? What are the cues that they might be feeling in their body? You know, are they sitting heavy? Are their shoulders kind of scrunched and tense? How's their breathing and their heart rate? Do they have sweaty palms or closed fists? Helping them really recognize how they're feeling and where those feelings are occurring in their bodies is the first step. The U within the RULER acronym stands for understand. So you're going to help them understand what happened to lead me to feel this way. So feelings change throughout the day. There's lots of potential causes to those changes in feelings, but really helping them to identify what the event was that led them to the feeling. That's really important for the U and in the RULER acronym and for supporting emotional intelligence. So determining the causes of the feelings that we want to foster can help us consciously embrace those things for ourselves and for others more often. And they could be good or bad, or helpful or unhelpful feelings. All feelings are valid. The L in the RULER acronym stands for label, and this is where you help support them for identifying what's the best word. Again, back to our emotion literacy, what's the best word to describe how I'm feeling? So again, with very young children, this might be a very, very, very few choices that they might come from, and very basic, such as happy, sad, or mad. And then again, just remembering to really cultivate that emotion vocabulary will help us be able to pinpoint our emotions more accurately and communicate more effectively. Also, once we can properly identify the feeling we're having, that will lead us to being able to gravitate towards the right strategy to help us regulate in those times. The R in RULER stands for regulate. So this one's really important, and it's going to lead us very nicely as we get into our discussion next about supporting and regulating symptoms of anxiety. Regulate stands for what can I do to maintain my feeling? If I want to continue this feeling, how can I keep that going? Or if I need to shift my feeling because I don't like how I'm feeling right now and I don't want to stay this way. Having some emotion regulation strategies is going to be another really important part to help your child develop that emotion and emotional intelligence, emotion regulation. And again, this is a lot, just for parents to feel like they have to tackle, but I think it's also important for you to know that these are really important goals within the school settings and daycare settings as well. So being able to ask your school's philosophy related to social emotional learning, specifically asking if they have a curriculum that they follow, I think these are going to be important for you as parents to think through as you're getting your child enrolled in once they become school age. There's a lot of resources for teachers and schools out there related to supporting social emotional learning within young kiddos. And again, this is a little bit on the educational side, but it doesn't help to be empowered to know that those are things that you can ask for. So moving towards some of your questions related to helping toddlers who are experiencing a lot of anxiety. Again, the building blocks of emotional intelligence, just as we were reviewing, that stem from these social emotional learning practices, they really are the building blocks to supporting a foundation that can help your child be able to self-regulate and for you to help co-regulate with them. So it's also important to first take note of your own emotional thermometer and be sure that you're in a regulated state to be able to support your toddler when they are experiencing these big kind of anxious types of symptoms. So truly it is best practice that these anxiety reducing strategies that you actually teach them ahead of time and during creative play when the child's in a calm and regulated state, because that's really how the brain learns best. So thus, if you're playing games that support emotion regulation or relaxation, those can be really great ways to proactively boost skills for your toddler to be able to readily access when they do start to experience heightened anxiety symptoms. So it's important to note that anxiety can also manifest very differently in different children, and this is based on a variety of different factors. This could be due to the child's inherent biological predispositions, home environment, other cultural factors, among many, many others. So this means that you might see one kiddo who's experiencing anxiety, and they might display or complain of a lot more kind of physical or overt symptoms in their body. So they might have more tummy aches or headaches, or kind of racing heart or trouble breathing. So those might be the symptoms that they display to you. But you can also have other kiddos who internalize these symptoms a lot more and experience a lot more worries or fears that might be more withdrawn. This could come out as having a lot more racing thoughts, or maybe they perseverate on a scary thought or a fear that they have. They might have bad dreams a little bit more frequently, even if the content is really unknown. Bad dreams could be another kind of signal that they're experiencing some really increased fear or anxiety kinds of symptoms. They also might act out their worry during play. So there's a lot of different ways that it could manifest. And so kind of depending on the way that anxiety is displayed in your child, you might want to have a couple of different approaches so that you can try them out and see what might be most effective. Regardless though, having a couple of tools under your tool belt, again, these are things that you're going to want to practice while during creative play, during downtime together, so that they can have a strategy to fall back on when they are in heightened anxiety state is going to be best. So there's some fun games that I have that you can try out, super simple. And one of them is called bubble breathing. So if you have any, especially younger kiddos who are really obsessed with bubbles, this is a really easy one. So just a minor twist on playing with bubbles, but essentially what you'll have them do is kind of explain to them, well, if you want to get a really nice big bubble, you first have to take a nice long deep breath in. We can count to, let's say, 3. So, and then we have to blow out nice and slow. See how we were able to make nice big bubbles, and then also made our bodies feel nice and calm too. Let's try it again. Let's take a nice deep breath in and blow out slowly so we can blow nice big bubbles. I don't think you saw my bubbles on that end. That way, they're actually getting the physiological benefits of deep breathing, which really helps to calm the diaphragm. Deep breathing is physiologically incompatible with physiological symptoms of anxiety. So it really does help to truly kind of calm the mind and the body. So it's a really easy way to help trick your body or boost your child's body into a more relaxed state. Some other fun games that you can do. So those are bubble breaths. You can also do something very similar if your child happens to have a favorite goodie, whether it be cookies or cake or brownies, or substitute that in for whatever, maybe it's gluten-free banana bread, whatever it is. But you can have them do a visualization activity you could, if you're actually baking together, do this physically as well. But one fun thing is have them imagine with you. You know what, I love cookies, so I'm going to stick with cookies. So I call this cookie breathing. And imagine that we just pulled out a freshly baked tray of cookies. So we're taking out the cookie tray, and I'm going to take a nice deep breath because cookies smell so good. So I'm going to smell in those cookies. Ah, that smells so good. But you know what? Before I can eat one, I have to blow on it so that it's not going to burn my mouth. So first I'm going to smell how nice it smells, and I smell the cookie. And then I'm going to blow on it. A nice long blow, so that way it's not too hot when we eat it. So that's cookie breathing. And so that's kind of another fun, creative way that you can teach some deep breathing exercises to your kiddos. I've got a lot of others. Some relate to progressive muscle relaxation, where you pair a visualization of an animal character with a relaxation pose. And that might be a little bit much for us to talk about today, but if you actually go on YouTube and you look at progressive muscle relaxation for children, there's some awesome YouTube videos on there, and they'll pair different animals and narrative that go along with it, so you can practice those together. One easy one is the turtle, and so you imagine that you have them kind of shrink their shoulders up to their ears, just like they might be a scared turtle because there's danger that's coming, and so they scrunch, 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 and notice all the tension that they're feeling. But you know what? The danger is past, so they can now come out of their shell and unscrunch their neck and notice how good it feels to be relaxed and safe. And so that practice of tensing and relaxation over time is also building their ability to recognize what anxious feelings might feel like within their body, but also gives them a tool to tense and relax and help flood their body with some additional regulation. And I just wanted to share that many of these deep breathing, emotional literacy skills to really help support and prevent a lot of feelings of anxiousness can begin really early. So I actually started deep breathing practice with my child, I think around between 6 and 8 months. And I can show you a brief clip of what that looked like with my young toddler, or my infant actually. Here we go. Debbie, strange boy. Debbie. Nice breathing. There we go. Nice breathing. And so now when I start to notice that my child is getting really dysregulated or upset or feeling anxious or is having a hard time communicating because of a lot of big feelings, I start to notice those precursor feelings. And then I do what I call co-regulation, and I really join him and I say, okay, honey, I noticed that I just simply pause and I just say, deep breath, baby, and pause. And then I say, what do you need? So it's important that if you see your child become overly anxious, that you really join them and engage in that co-regulation together, especially with toddlers. So you want to take time to calm down together and model the steps to go through to help keep your body calm. And then that only takes honestly a few seconds because they don't have a big span to be able to engage in this. So following that right up with an immediate distractor, something that's a pleasant activity, will be really helpful for your child to kind of get them out of that state. Next, I wanted to share a really helpful tip sheet with the increase in anxiety that has been spilling out of children and adults all over the world, really, since we've all been experiencing this pandemic and the multiple pandemics that have been occurring. I wanted to share this tip sheet. It's a really wonderful resource from the BASC guide, which is actually a behavioral assessment system that we use in the school and clinical psychology world. But they created these really helpful tip sheets for parents, especially during the pandemic. So to really be able to support and give some tips and guidance for parents that are noticing anxiety symptoms in children. So just a few highlights, and this is something else I'm happy to share within the resource letter with you. But this one, again, I reviewed this a bit, but what anxiety can look like in children, it can come off as nervousness, fearfulness, excessive worrying, acting maybe too serious, need for constant reassurance. So they might come to you a lot, needing that reassurance and that guidance that everything is going to be okay. They might have increased muscle tension. So some of the strategies additionally, and some of these might be more helpful for a little bit older kiddos, but these include strategies that can help regulate your child that are experiencing anxiety include positive storytelling, rewarding brave behavior, evaluating the worst case scenario, and teaching self-relaxation. And so actually within this tip sheet, it will actually break down exactly how to do each of those. And again, that's a little bit longer than what we could do just within our video time together, but I will share this resource with you so that you can see step by step, what does positive storytelling look like? What does rewarding brave behavior look like? And specific examples, worst case scenario, and teaching self-relaxation. So again, if you are feeling that your child's anxiety is becoming at a level that feels difficult for you to manage, and also maybe if you're experiencing a lot on your own, that's not something that you need to do on your own. That's what mental health providers are there for. And so remembering that infant mental health is maternal mental health. So being able to really tune in and lean on the support systems when you need it is going to be really, really critical for being able to provide the best support for your child that you possibly can. So for those of you parents who are really asking, how do you not feel guilty about having me time? Or if you're feeling some of your own mental health symptoms, how can you feel less guilty about that? And what can you do? I first just want to say that I'm passing each of you, and I wish I had a physical one printed. Any of my students watching this or my supervisees know that this is something I say regularly, but I'm passing you a get out of guilt-free card. Here you go. Engaging in that planned self-care, you're investing in yourself. You're investing in yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for those that you care for. When we are running on empty, imagine the metaphor of a gas tank that's going on empty. If we're only solely running on those fumes, all that comes out as spits and rattles and gurgles. And eventually you might break down on the side of the road and have to call AAA to come tow you. You're going to want to notice when your self-care gas gauge starts to get close to empty. And when it's your car, you don't wait for you to break down on the side of the road for help. You're proactive. You notice, okay, I'm going to need some more gas soon. That's very similar for our own self-care and mental health hygiene. So when we start to notice we're getting close to empty, we need to be proactive and plan it and schedule it into your week is honestly the best way to do this. Make it a part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth or combing your hair or bath time for the baby. That self-care for you needs to be a part of your mental health hygiene kit. This can be really small things, such as small things each day if you want, just little bits of time, or it can be, something once a week where you just go on a mommy date, and that can look like whatever it needs to be for you that fills you with joy, brings you peace, and helps replenish your tank. Also, just hear this: you are enough. And you are not alone. I'm raising my hand for those who are feeling anxious and depressed at different times during parenthood. It happens to us. It happens to more parents than not, especially these days. So you're not alone. I would really just recommend leaning into those emotions, ride that wave, give yourself the space and grace that you need to heal. Once you really identify if it's anxiety or depressive symptoms that are coming up and manifesting for you, once you kind of notice what that looks like for you and you can identify it, that alone is very powerful. It's kind of scary sometimes to be like, oh no, I think this is what depression feels like, or I think this is what anxiety feels like. What you can then do is once you notice those symptoms, you can name it to tame it, to borrow from Dr. Dan Siegel. He's the author of The Whole Brain Child. So something that you could do involves pleasant activity scheduling. This is a really wonderful way that can help jumpstart you into a more positive state. And even if it's only 1 or 2 notches up on that happiness thermometer from where you were before. This could look like each day, making it mandatory that you engage in something pleasurable or fun for you, and know that you are doing it because it's conducive to your mental health. Active versus more passive activities are preferred because physiologically, the more that you engage in active or pleasurable activities, those become things that are physiologically incompatible with symptoms of anxiety and depression. They also help give that more active, pleasant activities. They give much needed boost to feel good hormones in your body, such as dopamine, endorphins, or even oxytocin, depending on the activity you're engaging in. For me, it might look like I'm first leaning in and noticing feeling depressed or feeling anxious, and I let out a very good cathartic cry. That helps wipe away the exhaustion that it had been taking me to try to hold it together. First of all, I just let it go. I let go of those boundaries and those walls that I was putting up to try to keep it together, making me more tired, making me feel more depressed. And then I let it out, and then I do something active that's pleasurable for me, and I don't feel bad about it. As long as I know that my child is in good hands, or maybe it's something we could do together if absolutely necessary, if you don't have access to a support partner. But then maybe after my good cry, I might go on a nature walk, even if it's only 20 minutes. I go outside somewhere that's visually pleasing to me, or somewhere that has a lot of fresh air, and I go on a nice little walk. I might put in my headphones and listen to an audiobook or a podcast, or just some 90s R&B, whatever it takes to help get me out of the funk. I might also even just go on a drive. I might drive to my favorite coffee shop and just get out and walk around with that coffee. I also might just call a friend and vent it out. So those are just a couple of examples, but I just want to make sure that you're taking away today that you are enough. You are incredible. You are the parent that you are the meant to be parent for your child, and nobody will know your child better than you. So the best as you could do is just continue to keep learning your child's temperament and needs, and seeking support when you need it. There is nothing more strong or brave than building that support system, whether it be friends and family, whether it be adding in mental health providers to your mix of your tribe of people who've got your back and are there to support you. So with that, I'll go ahead and pause. Again, this is another discussion in which this only begins to scratch the surface. There are a ton of incredible resources that are available to you to support maternal mental health, infant mental health, supporting your the wellness and resilience of your child. These are incredibly hard times. You're doing fantastic. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do. And I look forward to hoping to connect with you all one day soon. Thank you.